To be honest, this guy has been around for a long time, and if you don't know what I mean by this guy, I am talking about Boogie Woogie, or more known commonly as Umbrella Rebirth. I had the unfavorable pleasure of running into him and debating him on my Discord, where I proceeded to talk about it, and the same thing he did with Spook and Jukes, a YouTuber who talked to him as well. He would divert the conversation away from the original topic where I was talking about the state of the game, and it just sounded like a mess and a bunch of spaghetti put into words. So here I'm going to show you today is the debate, at least one part of the debate that we had, where I was talking about the state of the game and he proceeded to have a tiff later on. But for right now, here you go with the clip, and keep in mind, this guy's kind of like the lolcow of the Dead by Daylight community. He just gets under everybody's skin, not just mine, not just my friends, but he gets under everybody's skin, just depending on who you are. So yeah, enjoy the stupidity, I guess.
Well, back to my point of like why I believe the gin rushing perks are not as good as they once were is because, yeah, I do agree that Prove Thyself back in the day, like they could stack on top of one another, and like the more the survivors were on the gen, like the faster it would go. Now I do admit that it did need to be tweaked because like I think it was like every survivor that was on the same gen, they got a 9% gen rushing speed, so that was a total of like 36%. I did agree that it was too much, so they dropped it down to where it can only stack once, and it was only 10%, but you could still get 100% more blood points in the co-op category for the objective. And then they bumped it up to 15%, which I thought that was a fair deal. But then they nerfed it again to where they got rid of the co-op bonus, and they nerfed it back down to 10%. And then they increased the max time it takes to complete a gen from 80 seconds to 90 seconds. And I just felt like Prove Thyself lost its potential. Moving on to Resilience, like, yeah, Resilience has its quirks, but then there's the hitbox issues. Like, I don't want to stay injured for hitboxes that haven't been fixed or haven't been addressed, because there have been numerous occasions on both sides, whether I play Survivor and Killer, where those should not have hit, but yet somehow they did. So that's why I don't use Resilience, because I don't want to stay injured just to get the benefit of a perk. And like I've been telling on the stream, that like the only perk that's actually good that is actually with gen rushing, and it's so underrated, is Overzealous, where like if you bless or destroy a totem you get 10%, but the effects double if you bless or destroy a hex. And like the only downside with that is that if you get injured, but you can reapply a boon and get the previous effects, which it's not broken, but it's also not like so bad where it's collecting dust.
You see, of course, but it also has to come down to the part that there is an MMR system in this game. Not everybody has all the perks for all the survivors in order to understand, hey, if I do this, I can gen rush, or hey, if I do that, I could help my teammates out. So they're stuck on this idea that the older perks that they were using are still viable for gen rushing. And I'm not going to lie, they are. You may have to waste one perk slot in order to get it to work, and you might have to use a toolbox with a brand new part to, you know, increase gen efficiency. But realistically speaking, you can still gen rush. It might be slower because of diminishing returns, and it might not feel as fluid as it did originally, but it's still possible.
I mean, it could still be possible, but it wasn't as good as it was before, because of all the powerful perks. Even now, even though they nerfed the perks, like, and it was necessary, but like there's still a lot of perks that nerfed the quote unquote gen rushing. It's like Pain Res, Pop Goes the Weasel, Eruption, Surge, Turn Back the Clock, Oppression, Overcharge. The list keeps going on.
What did they nerf?
Like,
you said that they nerfed it.
Well, they nerfed the Scorch Hook Pain Res because I don't know if you remember this, but back in the day when the artists first came out, you could keep hooking a survivor on the Scorch Hook, and you could keep using the perk again and again and again. It wasn't just
And so
a one
now,
time
yeah,
per.
per
Yeah,
survivor, once per survivor.
exactly, exactly. Which it was necessary, but it's still a very good part, especially combined with Dead Man Switch, where it forces them off the gen, which buys killers more time, especially when that gen was the most progressed one, and it still digresses while it's still covered by the entity during whether it's Dead Man Switch or.
So, if you don't mind me saying, then that means that you acknowledge that the killers kind of have a downside when it comes to its regression perks. So then it also ties into my next question I want to ask you, because I know you're answering this one a little bit, but I want you to also answer this one is, why is tunneling such a problem then if the regression perks are actively nerfed so badly? Because realistically speaking, tunneling gives the killer an advantage. One less survivor means less generators are going to be worked on.
Well, the tunneling isn't that much of an issue at this point. The main problem is the slugging. Like, I don't care whether you camp or tunnel. Like, yeah, I get a little upset.
But
because,
slugging
like,
is the issue, though. Even though that
Yeah,
the second
slugging-
chance perks, like, let's say Shoulder the Burden, or No Mither, or Soul Guard, Unbreakable, there's a couple of other, Dramaturgy, Plot Twist. There's a couple of perks that actually dedicate themselves. There's a bunch actually that dedicate themselves to being slugged, specifically for being slugged. And you see in higher MMRs, players have to deal with this problem. Killers mainly, not really survivors, killers mainly have to deal with playing around survivors who are actively running these perks. Newer
Well, see-
survivors won't run the perks, but like decent veterans will run the perks.
Well, see, I've been saying there's easy ways to counter those second chance perks. Like I said, with shoulder the burden, if somebody uses shoulder the burden and you're nearby as killer, and they like manage to use the perk, well, guess what? You already got a hook state. You're exposed. I'm gonna knock your ass down, and guess what? You already got two hooks within a 10-second frame.
Realistically speaking, saying that though, that it has to be a perfect world that happens, because with every killer that I've met, they have to follow these imaginary rules, and I'm gonna say they're imaginary because they really are. They have to follow the no tunneling the no tunneling rule, the no slugging, no this and this and that. So if, let's say, I were to play fair Dead by Daylight, I didn't tunnel you, I didn't slug you, right? You ran shoulder the burden, and if you ran shoulder the burden and I'm nowhere near you, I'm chasing your teammate who's already across the map, because in a perfect world, what you just said would have happened, where I could have turned around and got them. The only way that I could really think that a lot of killers that can actually get towards the survivor who's doing this are teleporting killers or movement killers, because otherwise most killers aren't going to get the value, and they're going to mess, and they're going to miss, and they're not going to get any of the kills that they were promised. And shoulder the burden is really seen and played off of that.
It's rare occurrences, though. It's like situational.
Realistically speaking, it's an S tier perk, so I couldn't call it situational when every survivor that I've encountered for the past couple of matches, as well as yesterday, have either been running Unbreakable, Shoulder the Burden, No Mither, some form of flip-flop, so that way they can get off the killer's shoulders. They're actively running Boil Over. So realistically speaking, I can't say that that's true, because, like I said, in a perfect world it would make sense. But this isn't a perfect world. The killer isn't always going to be the best killer ever. And the survivor isn't going to be the, S-tier survivor that can loot the killer for the whole entire match.
See, I would believe that, but when you have streamers like Momo7 who demolishes lobbies again and again, and, before you say, oh, because he's playing white and he's a comp player, one guy that can get over 1,700 wins. I mean, the guy needs to touch grass. Well, just as a joke, but that just further proves my point, because if the MMR exists and it's weak as hell, I mean, hell, COD,
it's a very weak MMR. Don't get me wrong. I will agree. It's a weak MMR system, because you'll get put with baby survivors or baby killers while being in a higher MMR. But I'm gonna tell you, it is not a perfect world because people actively have to deal with these problems with the killer either being really, really good or being really, really bad. Because I picked up Singularity recently. I started playing Singularity, so I'm gonna tell you myself. He is a S tier killer or an A tier killer that can actively move around the map, apply immense amount of pressure, regardless of whatever perk he's working, and I still seem to actively lose towards other survivors, even if I'm putting pressure, even if I'm playing fair.
It also depends on the map, though, because maps can also give an advantage to the killer. I mean, and that's another problem I have with this game is that, like, when they rework the maps, they're so bright.
I would love to agree with you as well, but then I can argue with the fact that there's pallet density. Originally, there was barely any few pallets, and it actually took some skill to loot the killer, but now you go towards Gideon's meatpacking plant, for example, and there's upwards of 29 pallets in one map. And I had to dedicate a perk specifically to either get rid of the pallets or use an add-on for a certain killer, like, let's say, Legion, like Eerie Button, to get rid of pallets.
Oh, I don't deny that that the Saw map has the most pallets.
There's other maps, too, that have an immense density of pallets. Let's say, like, the Mother's Den, you know, the one that's really dense with the forest with the cabinet in the center.
You consider that pallet density? Well,
there's a lot of pallets, as well as safe tiles. There's barely any dead zone tiles.
Well, the thing is that, yeah, while they're pallets there, they're easy to juke. I consider them weak pallets. Like, I always say on my streams, like, I consider 4 stages of where a pallet location is. It's God, strong, mediocre, weak. And all these pallet locations that I've seen around the map when I'm playing as killer, most of them are weak. And they're easy to juke as killer, because you could do the juking game with a survivor, and then you can get on the other side without breaking a sweat and get it down.
I can agree with you there. I can tell you 100% I agree with you that as a killer, I don't mind playing a mind game and juking the survivor. But there are maps, and there's a heavy majority of maps with high pallet density and high tile placement that is specifically made for looping. Ormond is one of them, like the different frozen versions of the Ormond. You also have the sand. I can't remember. It's for the painter, the artist.
Oh, Eerie of Crows?
Yes, Eerie of Crows has a bunch of looping, as well as a second floor state, depending on the map size and the map you get, as well as a large density pallets, and the tiles can also favor them. There's also been where there's 2 pallets placed directly next to each other. If one gets pulled and the other one does it, that's an immediate loop, like an infinite loop for a survivor.
See, I just had that map as Pig early on my stream, and I still demolished the survivors. Now, albeit
by demolish, how?
And slugging.
Okay.
But I just threw my point right there as a Pig, who is one of the weakest killers in the game. I mean, like, I'm on a 26 win streak with Pig. Now, again, like...
But you do agree that slugging, as well as proxy camping and tunneling with one of the weakest killers is necessary when it comes down towards a pallet-dense map.
I still can't get agreed. I mean, while there might be a certain number of pallets per map, like I said, most of the pallets are weak locations where, like, you can still get them with ease. I mean... Okay,
so you say there's weak locations. If you don't mind me asking, what would you classify as a weak location? Would you consider a pallet placed at a T-tile weak? Would you consider a pallet placed at an M-tile weak? Would you consider a pallet placed at a I-tile weak? Like, what would you consider weak and strong?
Like, weak, it's like, for example, like, pallets are, like, positioned like 2 trees or, like, 2 small rocks, or, like, at Five Nights at Freddy's map, where they're, like, a pallet is, like, between, like, 2 picnic benches. I consider that weak.
Yeah, 100%, because there are killers who have ranged attacks who can easily get over it. But then, what about the pallets that are placed next to trees with elongated rocks, or rocks that are too wide?
Then I would consider those to be strong pallets. But again, like, it's very rare to find those because it's all random on the map. It's all, like, luck, I guess, at this point, of how the maps are generated.
As much as I would like to say that it would be luck, I can't agree. I would have to hard disagree due to, again, pallet density being such a problem. Even if there are a number of weak pallet drops, there are close by a number of hard pallet drops, like ones that are god pallets or strong pallet drops, and survivors can easily loop as much as they want to, as well as bringing exhaustion perks to aid them with looping, which is another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention. That I've seen you played Survivor, and I've noticed that you played with certain exhaustion perks. Like, I could go to your recent stream that was turned into a VOD, and I can point out the exhaustion perks that you actually had. And those perks, like, I'm looking at them right now. We got Live, Iron Will, Distortion, Windows of Opportunity. Very strong perks for looping killers. So you have line of sight for when it comes to pallets. You have line of sight when it comes to windows. You have a perk to get away from the killer if the pallet is too, like, weak. So then how exactly is it weak if there's perks that support the weak pallets?
But first of all, I use windows because, like, I'm getting tired of all these randoms that just throw away the pallets. And, like, I'm struggling to figure out, okay, well, where the hell are the pallets? Like, did they just throw them when they could have looped them? That's why
other survivors are being chased by the killer too. It's not just you taking chase the entire time.
Right. But then at the same time, I'm scratching my head like, okay, where can I go and extend the chase? Like, that's what really makes
I feel
me
like your
frustrated.
focus shouldn't be where you can extend chase, but more of how you can take chase over instead of extending the chase. Play off of the pallets that are already dropped. Play around the locations that the survivor made it look like a easy loop. Because realistically speaking, I've seen people who have amazing looping capability, but with the worst perks ever, and still pull it off. And take chase and integrate themselves into a chase to divert chase away from, let's say, whoever's in obsession, whoever's being tunneled.
Again, it depends on the map, and it also depends on the killer. Like it's hard to use this argument that you have when we have so many killers that have such broken hitboxes. Like, for example, Freddy, for one, he has a lunge that is so ridiculous that
a really long lunge.
Yeah, like a swing with his claw.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Because, like, and like, you scratch your head, like, how the hell did that hit me when I could clearly see a foot gap between him and me. But, like I said, like, when you say pallet density, like, there are maps like Midwich, Raccoon City, the RPG map, which I love the game.
So if we're going to talk about indoor maps, specifically, a lot of the indoor maps are less pallet dense, but filled with a lot more windows and a lot more god pallets. So that way the survivors have an opportunity to break chase from the killer. And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So a good example, like, would be on Raccoon Police Department with the god pallet going up the stairs to the right. Yep. And then there's two different ways you could go. You could go immediate right and take it to where the gen is that leads back to the main atrium, or you could go back down the stairs into the front area of Raccoon Police Department, where there's also two different very strong pallets.
Strong pallets, like, you mean the pallet at the reception area?
No, not the. I'm talking about outside Raccoon Police Department, outside of it.
Outside the map, and that.
Yes,
okay.
in the front entrance area. There's two really good strong ones. Because realistically, I think that the game is more survivor-sided. Like, I will tell you, I think it's more survivor-sided and catered, towards survivor players than it is to killer players. And with this new update that came out with the diminishing returns, it actively supports better health when it comes to its killers, yes, but there have been survivors who have been subverting it entirely.
Well, I mean, like, if we're talking about Swifts, yes, absolutely, but solo queues are just a living nightmare. Like, you have to agree on that, on a certain extent on that.
As a person who plays solo queue, I can say that it is a nightmare, which is something that I wanted to bring to your attention, because when I was watching your stream, I saw you, and lack for a better terms, complaining about your teammates while in solo queue, or if they're in a 3-man Swift and you're in solo queue, I've seen you complain. And I'm not going to bash you for complaining, because, every now and then I'll complain about a survivor who escapes my chase easily, or if I mess up. But what I will say is that some of the things that I've seen you do, you pin on them, or some of the things that they do, you punish by you just talk about it a lot. When in reality, they're playing around them. And you said you're taking chase, you're trying to distract. And I've seen you do it, which is kind of odd because directly afterwards you'll complain about your teammates not helping you, even though you've said it yourself. You would rather take the chase so they could put the pressure on the gens.
Yeah, well, here, let me give you some examples in today's stream, because when I was going against the Hillbilly on Hawkins Lab,
I saw that, yeah.
it kept seeming like the trio, which was the Dwight, the Fang, and I forget, it was the Jake.
Yeah.
They seemed more inclined to bully the Billy with flashlight saves than doing the gen. Like
that right there, I can understand. That right there, I can understand exactly where you're coming from. If a team is going to specifically, deliberately bully the killer and waste their time not doing generators and cause a loss in general, that's throwing the match. But let's say they have flashlights, but they're also doing gens, and they're actively putting pressure on gens. Every so often coming in with background player, or what's that other perk that V uses that allows you to speed up towards the killer whenever they pick up a survivor? They're going for saves. And realistically speaking, I've seen you play against teams who are doing the gens primarily, but also have flashlights, and you've also said that they're doing nothing to assist you.
Well, yeah, because like they're more inclined to just stand around and try to get the flashlight save, like how Dwight was doing. Like I don't know what Jake was doing when I was on gens for most of the time, and
probably taking chase. Because I mean, I have the VOD right here. I could look at it. I could look at the moment. I'm not trying to contradict what you're trying to, like, right here. Hawkins Lab with Fenming, Nia, and Dwight. And Jake. Yep.
Oh, was it
so
I thought it was a Dwight.
No, there was a Dwight. Dwight's actively being chased. You got 5 gens. You're doing a generator. So this was way before you actively started getting chased. Yeah, meanwhile, Fenming is actively almost at 75% with one of her gens, and this is at the beginning of the match. Dwight goes down, and Jake has still yet to do anything. I'm assuming to try to save the Dwight.
Oh,
gets a flashlight save because Dwight was picked up.
No, they all have flashlights, most likely.
Yep, you even said it here, too, in the stream. Oh, flashlight save?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's go ahead, because I was just pointing something out.
Okay, well, I mean, it's one thing to go for a flashlight save, but like I said, these killers aren't stupid. Like once they get blinded and like somebody goes for the save, like they're gonna know that somebody's gonna be around again. And guess what? Like Dwight gets down, or the Fang goes down. After Dwight goes, or I forget who went down, but like the other person went down when the Billy found out, like, yeah.
But you can't understand. You can't understand why multiple of them are going down. It comes down simple to more survivors are getting put into a position where there's more pressure on the survivors than there is on the gens. So they're trying to save their teammates to try to apply more pressure to the gens. And even though it may not look that way, it's what's going on. Because Jake was playing around the Dwight. Fen stopped doing her generator so she could go save the Dwight after Jake got put into a slug. So, realistically, when all 3 of the survivors are actively trying to help each other while you're single-handedly doing one of the gens, you can't really blame them for doing something to try to end up supporting you in the long run. Because let's say they break chase and they get back on gens. Then what happens? They're being supportive.
Right, but since you say that there's so much pallet density in the maps, like, wouldn't you think they would loop this Billy and use all the pallets at their disposal rather than just sit around and use flashlights? Like, don't you think they should put more time and effort into the generators along with me?
Realistically speaking, and I'm looking at your stream right now, the one that you had where you were on that map, I can tell you that they were using the pallets towards their favor. I may not have their point of view per se, but they were looping the killers, and I'm seeing you at 2 gens left with a gen almost done on the edge of the map. Meanwhile, Dwight is trying to get a gen done, and Jake is being carried immediately.
Well, I mean, I already knew it was going to be a locked game, considering the fact, like, anytime we lose a survivor, when we got 2 gens left, I already know it's going to be a loss, or it's going to be a guaranteed loss.
Did
And
the
of
whole
course,
team was your whole team like just killed? And yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like your whole team was actively killed.
Yeah, I
Actually,
think
no,
we
Jake
all got
managed to
killed.
escape.
Oh, did he?
So
Oh,
yeah,
he did.
Jake managed to escape. So wouldn't you consider that a win?
No, because if a killer gets 3 or more kills, then that's a win for the killer.
But
Like, if it's 2 kills, it's a draw.
You told me when you were streaming that as long as a survivor escapes, it was a win.
If it's a solo, like, considering myself, because I don't know these other people that I'm playing with. Like, and if I escaped, okay, great. But, like, if most of my team died, then the killer won.
So you're not gonna apply the same rules that you have for yourself, where if one person escapes, it's a win towards the 3-man Swift. You're just gonna apply it towards the solo queue, which I understand you're solo queued, but it's a 4-man team. You're playing with other people. You may not have comms, you may not be in a Swift, but you are with other people, aren't you?
I am with other people, but I might as well play with bots. The bots. And what's funny is that the bots do better than the people I play with.
So you would rather take exposed? No, why are you playing an exposed sound effect? What the fuck? Thanks, I appreciate hearing that, even though I'm not doing anything right now.
Right, is it still my turn?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, but see, the problem is that, like, why after 10 years can we not get an accurate MMR? And, like, I should be going against, as a killer, more survivors that actually know how to play the game. But after 26 consecutive wins, I mean, do you understand
Well,
why
you answered that question earlier, because it's a very weak MMR. It's not a ranked game. It's not a game that is mainly for competitive. Even though streamers desperately try to make this game seem extremely competitive, it is not a competitive game. So you're not going to receive that god tier survivor or that god tier player that looks like they're cheating on killer, even though they're probably not.
Well, even though I had a hacker, a survivor.
Oh, I saw
earlier.
that. I saw that where they were in the injured state and they were making that sewing sound like they were repairing themselves. I saw that. But I didn't see as much complaints from you when they were on your team as a survivor. But when it comes to a killer who's a really good killer, you complain a lot.
Well, first of all, I was confused, especially with the Dwight, because, like, the Dwight somehow got a flashlight save on the audio through a solid fucking ambulance, which I thought he was hacking, and not the Phoenix, because and then after the sound effect where I was trying to heal him, like, I thought he was the hacker. So I was so confused, like, okay, who's the actual hacker?
So in the beginning, it was just confusion before you ended up learning it was actually the Dwight who was cheating?
Yeah, because after I died, somehow miraculously Phoenix and V escaped, even though there was like 3 or 4 gens left to fix still after I abandoned, because I was getting so sick and tired of, like, you know, the spamming at the TVs and kept slugging me over and over and over. I just had enough. I had to move on. And, like, and
did you say anything? Did you say anything to your teammates when that happened?
I think they already moved on.
So, because they weren't there to stick around to see whatever you had to say and they moved on, you didn't say anything. Realistically speaking, if you don't want me to, if you don't mind me saying, it sounds more like if it's in a favorable position for you to say something, you'll say it. But if it's not and they leave before you do it, you hold your tongue. Which I kind of noticed with that match on Hawkins, where you proceeded to BM the killer for winning and doing their job, calling them a camping fat you-know-what, which is kind of odd for a person who considers, like, you've played killer, and I'm assuming you don't like when you get BM'd. So, where's the double standard?
It's a vicious circle on both sides. It goes over and over and over again. You can't satisfy anyone.
It doesn't look that way when I'm looking at the end game right here, where it clearly says camping fat ass. The hillbilly goes LMAO, not saying anything rude yet. The map,
Yeah.
and you go and say so question mark, as if to justify you bad mouthing because they were camping on a very Survivor-esque sided map.
You consider Hawkins to be Survivor sided?
100%. It's a very maybe pallet dense, not so much, but window sided. Like there's windows and escape routes everywhere. Yeah, 100%.
What windows? Like the only windows I know are in that glass area, but that's about it. Like the only places that you can.
I said escape routes and windows. So the glass area that counts for windows, and then escape routes like the little stairs that lead to the rafters that will end up taking downstairs, and then more windows that end up on the third floor. If you go up the stairs on Hawkins, there's windows up there to loot the killer.
Yeah, they're easily to juke.
Easy to juke, and I only know 2 of those that are easy to juke. But if
And
a survivor, yes, and there's pallets up there, I would notice that there's easy windows that they could string together to escape the killer. I feel like I'm getting a little sidetracked from what I was talking about originally, though, because with your teammates, with the one teammate escaping, I guess it's not a win in your book, but instead of bad-mouthing your teammates for not helping you, you went directly towards the hillbilly who was playing the game how he was supposed to play.
Because I was trying to say to Dwight.
So why didn't you say to Dwight?
Because the reason I'm bitching is because you got an instant downhill ability who has huge mobility, where he could double back to the Dwight when he could have gotten to Jake, who was on a generator, or at least I think he was. Like he could have easily doubled back and gunned me down after I unhooked Dwight, could have hooked me and moved on to somebody else. And like you said, this game has weak MMR, but there's a lot of people treat it as a comp game. And I have to ask, what are we competing for in this game? Blood points?
I mean, you're asking the wrong person. I don't play this game actively to treat it like a competitive game. I played this game to play it as what it is. Killers versus survivors. The killer does their job, removes the survivor from the game. Depending on whether it's you kill all 4 of them within 5 gens and no gens get done, or if you kill half of them and 3 of the gens got done, or all of the gens got done. I play the game regardless of whether or not it's beneficial or not so beneficial. And yes, I will complain, but I won't take it as far as bad mouth and complain about how perks aren't in my direct area to help me.
While you may not badmouth the other players, I see survivors badmouth other survivors all the time, especially when I'm killer, and I laugh.
Did you ever think about it being as the same reason that you complain about other survivors, that they deem other survivors to be doing nothing or be worthless just a match?
Of course.
So it's justifiable then.
The problem is with the MMR is because, like, why is it that I feel like I know how to play this game, but like 80% of the matches I have people that don't know how to play the game.
Okay.
And this is the problem. And it's like, I don't think it's entirely the MMR's fault, but how Behavior Studios keep constantly taking the fun out of this game, and I would probably say most of the veteran players have moved on because they can't stand the current state of this game.
So it's Behavior's fault now because you can't get competent teammates to help you or get a proper killer match.
Well, considering the fact they don't play test their game, yeah.
But that's why they have public testing servers, so they can hear feedback from their players.
Do they though?
I would like to think so, because when I used to play on PC, I used to give feedback on the PTBs.
See, I would try to believe that was true, but after the Walking Dead podcast, when they did the chapter of The Walking Dead, and they had Oz Darva and all of them with Chandler Riggs, and they literally spat in Ozdarva's face when he gave them a temporary solution how to get rid of the hackers that were coming into their custom lobby. By the way, this is a custom lobby, and the hackers were getting into them, ruining their fun. And Ozdarva said, "Why don't I use my moderators, my most trusted people, to fill in the slots, the spectator slots, so that way the hackers can't come into the game?" And you know what Behavior Studios did? They banned all of his people, basically spitting in Ozdarva's face. It was such an embarrassment on Behavior Studios' behalf. And like, Behavior tries to hype up these chapters and say like, "Oh, this is going to be the best chapter yet," and it turns into dog shit because once again they don't play test their game. Like, well, they don't.
Realistically speaking, you can't expect a game studio to appease everybody at once. You know, someone's going to end up mad at the end of the day. Someone might not like something that behavior does, or somebody might like something that Behavior does. You can't expect them all to actively agree with the studio's decisions. There could be a majority that hates what happened, and they'll complain about it, and nothing gets done. And that's understandable. I can understand where people will start to get a gripe about Behavior about it. But then there's also the majority of people who like what happened. Now I will say what happened with the Rick Grimes and everything for The Walking Dead, it was terrible. I'll agree with you on that. But what I won't agree with is pushing blame onto Behavior when things suddenly get nerfed in the favor of one side or the other.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because like, for a game that somehow survived for 10 years, and they supposedly are doing all these services, they don't listen to the feedback, they don't listen to Ozdarva, who is their biggest content creator, of giving them advice how to make this game better, and they still don't listen to him. And like, and with the 10th anniversary coming with Jason Voorhees, I mean, like, yeah, great, we got Jason, but he's just recycled content. Like, they could have done a lot better with the grandest achievement of them all, for a game that has survived 10 years somehow, for a game that has been held together by duct tape.
Realistically, I feel like the problem here doesn't come down towards whether or not it's the survivors or the killers, but it comes down towards the overwhelming amount of people who don't agree with whatever Behavior does. And unfortunately, and I'm just gonna have to say it as it is, I would say you're one of those people. And it may not sound like a popular opinion, and it may not sound fair, but from what I've seen, where you start complaining on the base level and then you slowly move up towards the studio level where you start saying that it's their problem, when there's issues that you can fix on the base level and then let the studio attempt, I'm not going to say they will, attempt to fix their problems on their end.
But they're the ones that made the game, though. They're the ones that released the DLC.
And it's not going to be perfect. It will never be perfect.
How come?
Because that's how games are. You
don't see
again,
that
in a perfect world. With what?
Game companies like Obsidian, they make perfect games. Like Activision, before the shit Call of Duty games came out, like Activision, Infinity Ward, Raven Software, Sledgehammer, they made perfect games. Like, there was hardly any hackers, the balance was terrific. So, no,
but what specifically does that have to do with Behavior's game, Dead by Daylight, when they literally cater towards the majority of the paid content that they have, meaning the Survivor player base, because they pay for the majority of the paid content. It's not the killers, because the Survivors have the more content there is. And yet they may nerf the Survivor side, but they don't permanently fix issues that Survivors aren't dealing with. It's the killers who are dealing with the main majority of the issues.
Well, I say both of them are facing the issues, and like with all the constant changes, and some of the changes are just completely unnecessary.
Give me one unnecessary change, and maybe I might be able to agree with you there on that, because unfortunately I haven't heard a unnecessary change from you yet. I would like to know.
Well, first of all, the Kobe, they took away the 4% chance to Kobe off the hook because survivors and killers were bitching, saying like, "Well, I'm tired of survivors throwing the game."
So
I get that.
so like the Vigo's lip jar that gives you a 3% chance, so it's no longer 4%, is now 3%.
Well, no, you can't Kobe off the hook at all unless you use a certain perk like open-handed and slippery meat. My point is that like survivor teammates and the killer got getting tired of people throwing go next, but at the same time I understand saying like, well, maybe it's because they don't want to go against this killer.
I want to go back to what you said about how there aren't any ways to get off the hook anymore and do a Kobe. I get that they may have they took away the ability to just attempt to take off hook base kit, but what about deliverance or the perks that allow you to come off the hook? There's also add-ons that will give you a chance to come off the hook. So those don't apply?
That come off the hook? What add-ons?
Deliverance is one of them.
Well, that's a perk, not an add-on.
Vigo's lip jar gives you a 3% chance to come off the hook, as well as a couple of the other, not add-ons, I mean offerings. My apologies, I misspoke there. I meant offerings.
You're fine. You're fine. Well, that is if it actually kicks in, but honestly, I don't like the luck system. I just consider it to be BS to me.
Well,
like
in the end of the day, it's exactly what it said. Luck. Unless I realistically could not take this guy seriously. And when you see the second part and the third part, which I will be releasing in a few days because I don't want to upload everything all at once, because it was literally a 2-hour conversation where things started to get off track really fucking quickly, you'll start to notice that as the videos go on and as you watch these videos, that everything that he said will get backtracked, put in towards a hypocritical statement, and then unless if it faces his ideology for the game Dead by Daylight, like unless if it fits his motive, then he really just talks only about that, because he's an entitled Survivor main. He only plays Survivor, and he only complains about Survivor-based problems. He never really gives any substance towards the conversation, aside for anything that he complains about, which you'll see if you go towards his Twitch channel, which is Umbrella Rebirth, and you can tell that the guy is not all there. You can tell that he has a critical condition of Survivor entitlement, and it's kind of sad. Like, I've already posted a couple of videos about a couple of them who were streamers who were actually streaming and have me going into matches, but this one is a whole different case. So yeah, I hope to see you lot in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and peace.